Good afternoon, people. How are we? Hope you are well. We are back on Lee Judges TV. It's myself, Dan Potts, as your host. And Lee Judge is back in the house with a suntan as ever. How was Thailand, my bro?
Yeah, fantastic. What a great time. What a great place. Got back this morning. People were saying it was cold, and I was saying to them, "What the hell about? That sun's out. It was quite nice." But the last half hour, the temperature has dropped. And I'll tell you what, I am not looking forward to tomorrow, what I mean?
Tammy reckons you got a better tan than Ben White.
Yeah, I like to test him out on that old Ben. But he was out in Dubai, but he was doing a little bit of work. But it's what a place, you know what I mean? If you've ever been there, it's a great place to go. If you want the beaches are sensational. If you want a quiet time, you can with family and all that. But if you want to go mad, you can go mad. We had a couple of nights out as well, and it was brilliant. And once you're there, Dan, it's cheap. You know what I mean? It's not like, massively expensive. It's just, and you can live like a king, So, yeah, but back for the Crystal Palace game tomorrow, So.
Likewise, man. It's going to be a lot colder over here, bruv. Trust me. Standing in a stadium at -2 while you're like dreaming of what you were doing a couple of days ago in the sunshine. It's going to be very different, my bro. But listen, before we go to that game, I want to talk about some news that's hit today about Emile Smith Rowe. Big up Ash that has spoken, said, big up, lads. Would you let Smith Rowe go out on loan, especially to West Ham? Well, I've been given a couple of bits of information. I don't know what is true and what's not. Some people in the chat saying he's gone to West Ham's training ground. Some people in the chat saying that a bid's gone in. I'm being told that it's a loan with an obligation to buy £27 million, and that's been rejected. Arsenal said that he's in his plans. Mikel Arteta wants to keep him, and Emile Smith Rowe wants to stay at Arsenal. What do you make of this one, Lee? Because I can see why West Ham are bidding for him, because he's warming the bench at Arsenal. He's not getting a chance. And if I'm honest, in the last 18 months, for Mikel Arteta to say he's in his plans, when? Because for 18 months, he's been on the bench, bruv.
Yeah, listen, I didn't get much football out there and everything like that because I was doing loads of things. But the time that I did, I actually sat down and Graham Souness was doing an interview. I don't know if you've seen it, talking about Smith Rowe, that he really likes him as a player, really rates him, and was saying that. And I actually agreed with him when he said, well, not criticising Kai Havertz, but if you've got £60 million to spend on him, why spend that if Smith Rowe's in your plans? Because really, see, what it's done is just sort of shut a door for Smith Rowe, if I'll be honest. Maybe a different role, I don't know, but that money could have gone on to a striker, and Smith Rowe would have probably got a little bit more game time than he did. The one thing going against Smith Rowe for me is that he's not quite 100% fit all the time, not reliable, Dan, and that's the problem that I've got. Ability wise, not got a problem. But the last few weeks, he's definitely been on the bench. He's been fit, gets a couple of minutes here and there, and then doesn't get another couple of minutes here and there. I don't really understand. That's the thing I don't get. He has a couple of minutes one game, and then you don't see him play in the next game. And he's done that to a few substitutions and substitutes in the last couple of games. So, listen, I think that if it's going to fund something that we need somewhere else, reluctant as I don't want to see Smith Rowe go because I'm a big fan of his. But if he's not doing nothing, Dan, you've got to take the money and run, surely. That's how I see it. But at this moment, everything that Mikel seems to be doing at the moment, I'm not saying I'm going to criticise everything, but I'm sort of putting a question mark up against it. I have to say that. I listened to some of your stuff the other day as well, and, I know you can be a little bit extreme at times, but I was actually nodding my head when agreeing with you on a couple of things that you were saying, and I think that at the end of the day, I'm not, what's the word, I wouldn't be happy if Smith Rowe goes and then 6 months down the line, Mikel leaves or whatever, and that's my problem with it at the moment. I don't know really what we're doing. So West Ham, there's lots of talk about Aston Villa. He needs to play games. That's the thing, even if it's, if you're saying a loan, just go and get him out on loan and have 6 months where he can get football 90 minutes every game. I'll go along with that. But this, saying that we might sell him at the end of it, I'm not so sure. If I'm Smith Rowe, and I know I heard snippets of what Mikel was saying today, that he's happy at the club. Well, I wouldn't be happy if I was him. I've seen like Havertz come in and get more game time. I've actually seen Vieira get more game time than me in those positions. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult one. I want to see him do well in his career, but the Arsenal part of me wants him to stay. You know, because he's my brand. And the other thing is, Dan, and we was talking about this. I was actually on the. Ravi is a big Arsenal fan out there, you know, and invited us out for the night. And he said one thing that was really good. You know, Smith Rowe, and we was talking about it, and I actually brought it up and said, you know, if it weren't for Smith Rowe a couple of seasons or 3 years ago now, I don't know how long ago it was now, he might have lost his job. You know, Smith Rowe done him some big favours, you know, and he hasn't really returned it and been that loving sort of manager that people think that he is.
Let me tell you where I am. I had Troops and Curtis on here yesterday, and I was on my channel, yesterday, and I was chatting about it. In 2020 is the year that you're talking about. We
Right,
were
yeah.
15th or 16th in the league. It looked like we were pretty much in the mud, and it was only a matter of time before Mikel Arteta was questioned about his job. And we played Chelsea at the Emirates, didn't we? And he brought Smith Rowe, Saka, and Martinelli into the mix together. And Smith Rowe was phenomenal for pretty much the rest of the year. And yeah, we did miss out on Champions League football. It wasn't like we were, going to go on to win titles because of Smith Rowe, but he was a massive part and key into us going on that run, which nearly got us that Champions League spot, which everyone at the time would have been happy with in terms of our progress. And Smith Rowe since then has had injury problems, but when he has been fitly, he ain't been getting the nod. And when he's bought Havertz and Vieira, by the way, two players that are now ahead of him, Reece Nelson, who gets a nod ahead of Smith Rowe on the left or right, and on top of that, Leandro Trossard. That's without the starters, Saka, Odegaard and Martinelli. This kid's number 7 or 8. So you can see why he wants to flirt with the chance of one getting a first team football elsewhere. But you can also see why teams like West Ham and Villa are sniffing around him, because they're thinking if we can get this player regularly playing football and he can hit the form that he did when he come on the scene at Arsenal, it'd be a very good buy. Now, I don't know what price people will think is good for Emile Smith Rowe, because he has been injured for 18 months, which means we're not going to get 50 million for him as a young 23-year-old Englishman. But you've got to be looking at in the 30s, in my opinion, if you want to be allowing him to be parting ways with Arsenal, because look at Mason Mount going for 60 as a young English lad. Well, he ain't 30 million pounds worse than Mason Mount, is he? So he's going to have to at least be around that 30, 40 mark for me to actually look at it and go, do you know what? I'd be happy to see Smith Rowe go there if it meant that we could then go and move on and upgrade our squad. And the other thing I'll say is with Smith Rowe himself, I don't think when he's come on, he's lit things up. But I also don't look at his performances when he's played for Arsenal, when he has got the opportunity and gone, wow, looks a shambles. And the other thing I'll say is I haven't looked at the other players that have come on instead of him and gone, oh, wow, yeah, you can see why Smith Rowe's not getting ahead of these lot. Because let's be real, no one's been fantastic from the bench this season at Arsenal. So if Arteta's going to sit there in a press conference and come out in the media and say he is in my plans, I'm expecting to see more of him in the coming games, Lee.
Yeah, and you're right in what you're saying, but the coming games are all now important. There's no cup games, like FA Cup games. There's obviously the Champions League, but there's no time to rest a few players here and there now. That's gone. You know, we play again on Saturday for the first time in 2 weeks, and then we've got another 10 days off before we play again. You know, so I suppose they'll be popping off to Dubai again. Well, I don't know what they'll be doing, but. It seems to me that, you know, it's going to be very hard for him to get game time, you know, and at the end of it, then perish the fault if they go out of Champions League. He's just got the league games to go on though. So listen, I get when people say, "Oh, Smith Rowe's not done anything; he's been injured." I get that, you know, and I'm not in the same sort of what's the word, passion about Smith Rowe as I am Ramsdale at this moment in time, because you know, he just hasn't performed, you know, but he has performed in the past, and you know, unfortunately injuries have curtailed that a little bit. Like, but again, you know, I look at loyalty and I think, well, hold on a minute, what has these other guys done for you, Mikel, apart from you buying them that Smith Rowe hasn't? You know, Smith Rowe, say, kept him in a job, but you know what I'm saying, like on that, if he didn't perform, you know, it could have got really very, very difficult for Mikel at that sort of stage. And another one that would probably be looking at it in that dressing room going, well, can you imagine it sitting around the table, Aaron and them, and we're going, well, I've been well, so have I, and sort of both saying that they're the same sort of conversations about loyalty and about the manager not sort of backing them, if you know. I mean, I think there's a thing about that, Dan, is there's certain players being backed and other players not, and dare I say it, the English boys seem to be being pushed out a little bit,
Yeah.
And that worries me. It worries me. I don't
apart from one English lad definitely ain't, in Eddie Nketiah. Old Eddie, he's had enough chances, in my opinion, ahead of Nelson, Smith Rowe, Ramsdale, all them put together. But I will say, at Smith Rowe, I think what is more confusing as well is that he ain't just one position. You know, when you get let's say you have a left back and he only plays left back. He's not versatile. He ain't got a right foot. You can't put him right back. Or definitely not a defender. He's like a bit of a sort of Nuno Tavares, where he can only really play as a left wing back or a left back. You can't really sit there and go, well, there's about 4 positions for him there. It's a bit unfair because Smith Rowe can play right or left. He can play number 10. He can play false 9 and he can play attacking 8. And I'm going to say it now, Lee. I would start him tomorrow. And you know why I'd start him tomorrow? Because at the moment, he's our best number 8 that we've got. Because Rice is our best number 6 with the injuries we've got. In my opinion, Smith Rowe is better than Kai Havertz in the number 8 position. You can talk about Kai Havertz as an attacking option if you want. That's fine by me. If you want to fling him on, all good. But for me, he's not a number 8. It's quite clear, I think, everybody to see. It don't have to be rocket science to work out that Kai Havertz is not a number 8, right? But Smith Rowe can play there, and he can actually do quite a good job there. He's a lot more mobile. He's got the athleticism. I think he's got the flair. He's got that turn on the ball where he does that spin on the ball. He's definitely got his passing ability there, and he can score goals. So I look at that and think, you are my number 1 right now, with everybody that we've got out, Vieira and obviously Party being out as well. That for me means Smith Rowe deserves a chance tomorrow, and I would play him in the 8, Lee. I would tomorrow.
Yeah, I it just depends how he trained over this last week or so. Something's got to change, you know what I mean, from the last few games, and I'm not going to argue that, because he can finish. He is a finisher, and that's what we've been lacking in the last couple of games. Had a little look at the games over the last couple. I'm going to be really honest with you now. Should have beat Liverpool. And we should have beat West Ham. The Fulham game is the game that really worries me. It's the one that really sits there, and I can't defend anything of that game. We never looked like scoring. It was a poor performance, and unfortunately, we'd had a few of them going back, and that was the big worry. And I think that it could be a little bit like that for this game. I think that Crystal Palace are going to sit in and make it difficult for us. Talking to Julian the other day, and he annoyed me, not deliberately, but just by saying, like Crystal Palace, I hope it goes to extra time against Everton and all that. And I went, why is that then? He said, well, we got them on Saturday. So I said, yeah. So he went, well, we want them to be tired when they come.
They've had 10 days off.
I said, well, they're Crystal Palace. It's not like, this is what it's coming to now. Or what I mean? I'm not worried what team they put out or whatever, whether they played Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We should beat Crystal Palace and not have a worry about it, But, I hope they get a man sent off or they get this in. And I'm thinking to myself, well, really? I'm not, I'm going to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning watching Crystal Palace and see what it's going to be like. I don't care. They should be put to the sword on Saturday, whatever happens. Now, if you want my honest opinion, do I think that we're putting them to the sword? No, not really. Listen, I've just seen a few comments in there, about Mikel rubbish and all that. He's not rubbish. We're not in an absolute disastrous position at this moment, and the reason we should beat Crystal Palace, Dan, is not because of Mikel Arteta or not because of Mikel Arteta. The reason we should beat Crystal Palace is because we've got better players, and that should be down. Like, I look on this game tomorrow, and it's about him putting out the right team. I get that, listen, I don't think he's rubbish, Mikel. If you want to have an argument and say, can he take us to the next level? I can understand that. I can understand that debate and all that, but he's not useless. You know what I mean? And listen, I'm one that believes that he should be criticised. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's a conversation. If we can't beat Crystal Palace tomorrow, that's us out of the Championship to the title race, whatever happens, and probably, Dan, if I'll be honest, out of the top four, because I've seen a couple of teams this week when I've been there that I've been more impressed with, and I dare say that them down the road, I don't think that we're putting a performance like that at Man United. I don't think we will. And that's what worries me. So when I look at it now, I think there's pressure on Mikel now coming into these games, Dan. Massive pressure. I expect a reload of having this break. It's a complete break, reload, reset, and I expect Arsenal to come out flying. I expect decisions to be made over this course of 10 days. They won't be, and if they don't get the result, the pressure's on. For me, I don't care what anybody says. Ramsdale should be in goal come Saturday. I think that's a definite one there. I'm going to go along with you on the Smith Rowe one. You know what I mean? Smith Rowe should be in there as well. Do you know what though, Dan? I bet they are not. I bet they're not.
Oh, I know what the team will be. I know the team will be. It'll be Raya in goal. It'll be Ben White, Saliba and Gabriel and Kivior, because Zinchenko apparently is still a doubt. In midfield, it'll be Rice, Havertz and Odegaard, and it'll be Saka, Martinelli, either side of either Eddie. Saka or Martinelli, either side of either Eddie or Jesus if he's fit. But it wouldn't surprise me if Eddie gets a game, because he'll put him in the market against the club that want him. If he scores a couple of goals against Palace, we might be able to get something for him. So
I think Jesus will play. I think Jesus.
I hope he does. I hope he does.
I can't see him not playing, Dan. To be fair, I would be very, very surprised if he's not. If Eddie gets another chance, dare I say, if I go over the ground tomorrow and it's Raya in goal, Kivior playing left back, and John and
Eddie up
there, I might just get back to the airport and get another flight out there, you know what I mean? And waste my time with this team, because that wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be sending out the right messages and that, for me, I felt that we looked better against defensively with Liverpool. With Ramsdale in goal, I think defensively we looked a little bit better. Kiviar's made a mistake with the header. He's got to go with him, Dan, because as you quite rightly said, there's no one else. I understood. I don't know if this is true, but what I was getting the news was that Zinchenko broke down again with this calf injury. Now if that's the case, he's broke down in America on it. And now this time again, so what is going on? And realistically, if that is the case, they should have gone in and got some sort of cover at that left back position by now. Come on, we're going into this game now. We've actually, could actually play Cedric there. It wouldn't surprise me if Cedric plays in that game, Dan. I really don't.
No, it wouldn't surprise me if we did something like that. What's crazy though, right? And I know everyone's going to go, stop bringing it up. He don't want to play for Arsenal, but we're sitting there with Tierney chilling in Spain, as someone's just said in there. He's just he's been good for Sociedad. They've obviously gone through the Champions League, and people have said, "Oh, we can't have him because he's always injured." Zinchenko's been more injured in his career than Tierney. Do people know that? So that's a crap excuse. I'm sorry. If you're going to get rid of Tierney, cool. He's not your player. You don't want him. You never signed him. It was Emery. Apparently he's rubbish because he can't invert. So do what you want. He goes over and gets sold, right? But go and replace him. Timber's injured, man. And we still let someone go out on loan. And I spoke to Curtis yesterday and he made a great point. £700 million spent and we're still wondering whether to play Kivior or Cedric at left back. £300 million spent in midfield, and look at the state of it. £300 million. Klopp spent £380 million to win the title for Liverpool. We've spent £300 million and we still got Elneny and Jorginho and Havertz in our midfield and Vieira. I mean, come on, man. Like, questions need to be asked at our recruitment. I've said before that we've had some really good signings, Lee, but this window is another excuse, another reason, and the summer as to why I still don't trust Edu and Arteta. I'm sorry, mate. I know that they do some good things, but £65 million on Havertz, and now we can't afford a striker. £65 million on Havertz, and now we can't get a left back in or a centre midfielder in. Something's going wrong, and we're talking about loaning Smith Rowe. What's that going to do for us? That's not getting us any money.
No, I agree, and this is where I think this break is so important to Mikel. These players have got to step up. You know, I see someone in the chat saying Vieira's back now, like, you know, well, he's got to step up, Dad. It's no good, like, you know what I mean? He's got to step up, you know, because these are Mikel's signings. If I look at it now, those two players, Havertz, there's no more issue. I don't think Havertz has been that bad, if I'll be honest, as you know. Like, I think the last few games.
I think me and you disagree on that, which is cool. You know, that's fine. But
yeah, you know what I mean. But at the end of the day, and I agree with what you're saying. You know what I mean. For 65 million, you expect it to be a little bit better than what it has been. I get that, you know. But when you look at that, 65 million for that. Vieira as well, like, and the pair of them have got to step up, Dan. You know what I mean? Like, and that's on Mikel. That is on Mikel now. Like, you know, I'm afraid Eddie has had enough chances, and he's not stepped up to walk the hype and, you know, what the manager's been saying. That's on Arteta now, like, you know what I mean? That's the reason why we've not got forward, is because they give him a bigger contract and believed in Eddie. Like, you know, and Eddie's not stepped up then. So what is that? That's down to the manager now. Like, or, you know, you can say the recruitment. You know, Nketiah, I think, is a little bit harsh, because I think that he is a central defender, back up to Gabriel, which is a difficult one, by the way, to be a backup to somebody so good. But, you know, ask him to play left back. Well, surely, you know, we've seen him play there 4 or 5 times now. Sure, you know, right, okay. You've had this 10-day break now to find someone in the squad that can play it better than him.
Where's our youth player at left back? Have we got one?
Well, exactly. You know, but bring in someone that can play there, Dan. You've had 10 days. I'm sorry, you know, the excuses now are running out for Mikel. I'm not at that point where I know a lot of people are and everything like that. But there is questions to be answered now, Dan. You know what I mean? When is Vieira going to step up and start proving that he is a top player? I know he's been injured, but he hasn't done it for the last year and a bit, like, you know. Havertz has got to say, when is Eddie going to step up and say, right, do you know what? That you're the reason why we haven't bought a striker. I see somebody else the other day. There's another forward going for about 50 million or so. I can't think who it is now. And Eddie ain't being talked about like that. One iota, you know. I can't remember who it was now. Like, you know. I look at David Moyes. You know what I mean? I know, like, old Lawless gives him a lot of stick and everything like that. But look what he's done with Bowen. He's made him into a really dangerous forward. I know he's injured at the moment, but you know what I'm saying? We haven't done that with Eddie.
Do you know what? West Ham, right, are actually linked with some good players. So Calvin Phillips looks favourite to go West Ham on loan, right? Wan-Bissaka they're linked with now. Not really been a fan of him, but defensively one-on-one he's not so bad, and they do need a fullback, and he can play both sides. They're also linked with, obviously, Smith Rowe, and they want to put in a bid for Reece Nelson, from what I'm hearing, which I want to come on to next. So West Ham are actually looking like they've got a little bit of money about them. Arsenal, we're having to sell before we buy. So you're right. The players do need to step up. And if they don't, then it's on Mikel to try and make them step up and try and get the best out of them. But this window, Lee, before we go into Palace properly, is worrying me, if I'm honest. Because we're short in positions and the cover that we have got isn't adequate. I'm seeing us in games flinging on Eddie and Nelson to try and win us a game. We were doing that last year. We didn't win the league. I don't look at the bench this year to last year and go, oh, wow, this has been a good window. We're a lot stronger. It ain't changed. Apart from the goalkeeper is better on the bench now. It's Ramsdale instead of Carl Hine, or what was his name? Matt Turner. And Kai Havertz, when everyone's fit, will be one player that's on the bench that's different to the others. The rest is exactly the same squad as last year that wasn't good enough to win the league. And it doesn't look like we've got any money to do anything because of the profit and sustainability. Now, apparently Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea, all these, they've got loads of money, but they can't spend it because of these new rules that have been implemented.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to sell before we buy. Now, I wanted to ask you, Lee, who in this current crop of players do you think could be parted ways with to try and create some funds? Because Elneny's out in Africa, but that's a player that we don't really need.
No, he's not going to get no money for him. We're going to get
Cedric
nothing.
is another one that we don't really need. But both of those are going to get us a couple of million, mate. So is there anyone in really that you look at that you think, do you know what? Let's have a casualty. We don't really want them to go, but it's going to get us 30, 40 million pounds in, and we can go and get somebody with it. Aaron Ramsdale, Eddie Nketiah, Smith Rowe, dare I say it, Thomas Partey, if somebody did want him due to his injuries. Where are you looking, and what do you think's realistic with that option, bro?
Well, I think those four are the ones that go there. Obviously, Aaron Ramsdale is the one. I wouldn't, spending all that money on Raya, who is no better or no worse. Jury's out on it, what I mean? Like, it's a ridiculous decision. I keep going on about that, Eddie now has got to be sold in this window. Got to be sold in this window. If you're bringing a centre forward, if you're going to bring in somebody that's another one. I'm sorry, Smith Rowe has to be another one. If you're not using him, you're bringing him on with 3 minutes to go. I'm sorry, what I mean? You got is another casualty, and that's it. Tough one with Thomas Partey. If you're going to bring in somebody again, I would sell him, Dan. I would, if you can get some money for him, I would. So those four players, and every one of them has contributed to the success of Arsenal over the last year or so under Mikel Arteta. If you look at it, like Ramsdale, if it wasn't for him, was on holiday, and the game come up against Tottenham, 2-0 game. Anybody go back and have a look at that? Do you remember it? I thought that Arsenal totally dominated that game, right, at the new Spurs ground, but there was four saves in there from Aaron Ramsdale that I didn't realise, because we were so dominant in that game. Thomas Partey was fantastic in that game, by the way, and I'll tell you who else was fantastic in that game. Shinchenko, he was outstanding in that game. So, you've got that one there. Thomas Partey, I think, has contributed over the last 2 years fantastically well. As we said, Smith Rowe has as well. And to be fair to Eddie, I'm going to give him a little bit of praise. We didn't really miss Jesus when he was out injured. He done an adequate job in that, but he hasn't kicked on. And you can say that about all four of them if you want. In
Mate, your Wi-Fi.
Is it my Wi-Fi? Can you hear me? I think it could be you, Dan, because you've gone still. All right, I'll carry on talking. Can everybody hear me, Yeah, it's Dan that's Rose Lee. I'm all good, So, and I look at it and I just think that maybe, all four of them have not quite kicked on. You can look at Ramsdale as he got better and better. Partey hasn't. Stephanie Smith Rowe hasn't, and Eddie. And that is where you're right now, with it being with the manager as well. All these players have been bit ruthless, if I'll be honest, bit ruthless with their the way Arteta's done it. He's been very, very ruthless, but he's not been ruthless with himself, and I think that is the problem. And I'm a little bit worried about that. If I've been really honest about things. So listen, you can go about on a lot of players. We can talk about Ben White. There's the question marks. He's got to come back and be strong. 10 minutes into or everybody's saying that he's injured. All of a sudden, he's not injured or whatever. It was you, Dan, I think. You know what I mean? So
Sorry,
Yeah,
mate. My Wi-Fi just said no. See you later,
yeah.
and I just
See
got
you later,
booted
like,
out. I
when
thought
that
it was
happens,
you. I
it
was
goes.
laughing because it was you doing. You were going all funny, and I thought it was you. And I realised it was my Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
sorry about that,
So,
mate.
but like, no, it's just what I was just saying that all those four players we said just not quite kicked on for whatever reason. But I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking, right, I'm for me now, Dan. I'm going to say it now. It is now clean straight. Whatever's that gone on now. From now on, I want to see Arsenal improve. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you, and I had an argument there. Arsenal's next four games, right? Crystal Palace, Forest away, Liverpool at home, and West Ham. I expect Arsenal to be getting 12 points there, 12 points from those games. No one like saying, we want to get a draw here or whatever. Bang, 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 bang. But I look at those games and I'm not confident on any one of them. Not confident. So what I'm saying is now that I need my confidence built up. So when I go to the game tomorrow, I want to see bang, bang, come away from that game going, wow, yeah, Arsenal doing well in that. Go to Forest, bang, bang, bang. Like every game I'm going to at the moment, I'm saying, yeah. But there's somebody on my shoulder saying, it's not quite right, Lee, is it? It's still not quite right, is it, Lee? You know what I mean? I want that taken away from me now, Dan, and that goes from the team set up. I want to see a positive team and I want to see it go, and listen, I've not, like, when did you become Arteta? Anybody says, I'm not Mikel out by a long way yet. But what I am with Mikel is there's a big question marks there, and I do believe it is. Not getting 12 points. You know what I mean? Like, well, if you're not getting 12 points, something you've got to be looking at that, Dan. There's got to be questions. If you're not getting 12 points, I'm looking at that, right? And if Tottenham are playing those four games, they're getting 12 points, Dan. If Man City are playing, they're getting 12 points. So why we need to get the 12 points as well. Like Tottenham have gone to Nottingham Forest and won. They've beaten Liverpool. Right? What was the other game? All right, they lost to West Ham, not away though. And I don't think they've played Crystal Palace at home, but I tell you now, they beat them. If Crystal Palace were playing Tottenham tomorrow at Tottenham's ground, what would you be saying, Dan?
Yeah, no, you're right.
3 or
You're
4-0.
absolutely right. Yeah, you're right, bruv. You're right. And I'm not confident, mate, going into these games at the moment. And I don't think there's unjustifiably reasonings to say why we're not, because the way that we're playing right now has not been great. I have to say, it really isn't. And I must say this, when I go into football matches, I do get a little bit of a aura. Whoa, okay. And that team news is going to do that to me tomorrow.
Yes,
It is.
that's a great point. That is a great point. I will be running to the ground if certain decisions are made tomorrow, right? But I know that I'll be just plodding along.
Yeah, and I'll be deflated if I see the team that I expect it to be. But a lot of people. Someone mentioned it earlier before I went, and my wife, I did one. Was Souza, who's the left back, a young 19-year-old kid. I'd rather have his young, vibrant athleticism than Kivior. It's like playing Mertesacker at left back. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a poor decision that from Mikel. And sometimes he has to stop being stubborn, which I think he's learnt off of Arsene Wenger, by the way, and just accept that sometimes it ain't working. You've got to change it up. And I think he'd be silly if he comes back from Dubai, right, when they've had 10 days rest, all the memes that are going around of him in Salt Bay and all that stuff, and we get beaten by Crystal Palace. Long season. Horrible times for Mikel. Let me tell you that now. Now, I do think we'll beat Crystal Palace tomorrow, and I'm hoping that we see a different Arsenal. But I can't sit there and say to you, if there's a Palace fan coming up to me going, do you know what? I fancy to get something off you tomorrow. I wouldn't say you're crazy. You're deluded, mate. I'd say I can see why. Because look at the way we're playing, Lee. So you can understand why people might get that little doubt in their mind about Arsenal. They're in the ACCA. You're doing the accumulator tomorrow. Ain't putting Arsenal in the early game. I'm going to miss that one and go and put someone else in. I can understand why. Because let's be real. This time last season, everyone would have gone, oh, bloody hell. All our rivals are Arsenal got Palace at home. That'll be about 4-1. Who they got next week? Now they're like, oh, Palace, could they? And look how bad Palace are, by the way. They're shocking at the moment. They want Hodgson out. They want their owners out. They've just got knocked out of the FA Cup, another trophy this season. They ain't won. I think they've got one game in 10 that they've won. It's a poor run from Crystal Palace at the moment. They're flirting with relegation. If Arsenal can't beat them at the Emirates, we're in trouble, Lee.
Can't argue with you. And that's where we're at, isn't it? That is where we're at this moment in time. We should go there tomorrow and beat it. But as I say, I'm not being horrible. Like, you know, I wouldn't put my my what's-its in the old vice here for this, I tell you, like, and say, yeah, we're definitely going to win, like, you know what I mean?
No.
Old Sorbet, whatever his bleeding name is, like, you know what I mean? I'm not getting his chopper out with his whole steak knife out. I'm telling you that now, like, I'm not putting nothing on it, like, you know. You know, unbelievable, like. But listen, we know a lot tomorrow, Dan. We know an absolute lot tomorrow. What's going to go on with this team? Like, somebody said, I think I was watching the Forever Arsenal weren't on it this week. Like, you know, I think it was what's the reason that you think? I asked you the question. What's the reason that you think that Arsenal are going to beat Crystal Palace tomorrow? My reason is because we've had this break and we've reset, and I think that, you know, we come in with fresh ideas and worked on things. That's why I'm saying it, not because we're a better team.
I'm expecting to see a reaction.
Yeah, but we've been a better team against. We're a better team against West Ham. We're a better team than we were against Fulham. We didn't win those games, so. But that's what I'm expecting. I'm seeing a reaction. I'm also expecting the manager to ring changes. I am expecting that. I don't know where those changes. Well, I know where I hope they're going to be, but I'm desperate. You know, if Jesus is on that team's to cheat tomorrow, I'll be very, 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 very happy. But in saying that, he was on the team sheet against West Ham and he didn't win, so we'll have to wait and see. But
yeah, but sometimes I'm with you. You got to play your best 11. And if listen, I've got nothing against Jesus being on the bench. If he believes he ain't 100% fit, that's different. But if he's fit, he plays for me. Right? Jesus plays. And that's what I want to be seeing. I don't want to be seeing Eddie up there, you know, tomorrow. And it's just not going to be good. Listen, before we come to my last question, I want to ask you about Benzema, because there's a lot of people talking about this one. 6-month loan deal. He probably want like 300 odd grand a week, similar to what Havertz is on, maybe more. He's 36, 6-month loan deal. He knows where the net is. Unbelievable experience. Champions League winners, Champions League top scorers, I think, up there with them. I think it's a no-brainer if we can get Benzema across the line for 6 months, Lee. But what do you think, bro?
I think it's a good thing if it's not silly money. You know what I mean? I'll be really honest, if it's not silly money. Listen, do you remember? I can't think of his name. Larson done a job for
Henrik Larsson.
Yeah, done a job. So I wouldn't be against that. You know, a bit of experience, knows where the ball is. You know, at the back of the net. That's been our downfall over the last few games, and you know, someone like that is what we need. But for me, I'd rather get in the main man that we want if we can't get it. But listen. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't think it's going to happen. Like even if it was available to us, Dan, I don't think it's going to happen. But
why don't you think that? Is it the same reason as I don't? Because the reason I don't is I don't think he's what Arteta wants. He's that big personality, ego. He's an Aubameyang Ozil type that's going to come in and say, right, I've been there, done it, and this is how you do it, boys. And I honestly don't think Arteta wants someone like that.
No, I totally agree. That's the reason it doesn't fit the profile for us. I think if he was young, enthusiastic, and I don't mean that in a horrible way, but you know what I'm saying, willing to learn, willing to, you know, like willing to go through walls and things like that. Hungry, the wrong words I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying. I don't think that. You know, I think Mikel's a little bit. Not setting his ways, but likes to get to work with younger players. Now, a lot of managers are like that. Why do they want to work with younger players? Because they're not so give it those sort of problems, Dan. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they're not ready to question decisions, question what things are going to happen. Like, you know, when you're an experienced player, you will make those calls. But listen, I think that, some of the decisions that Mikel's made have been right for the football club, but I just think that if we was going down that route, dare I say, it makes Arteta and Edu wrong, because they've not gone and got the centre forward when they should have done. Do you see what I'm saying? Listen, ego sometimes in football shouldn't be given, but I think they probably think to themselves, you know what, don't look good for us,
No, listen, I honestly believe that there is something about that, and that's the main reason for me why I don't see Benzema coming to Arsenal. But when I'm looking at it right now, Benzema is not only an upgrade on Eddie and Nketiah, but in front of goal, he's an upgrade on Jesus. You might say Jesus has got better legs in him and he's better all-round footballer right now, because Benzema has been there and done it. But in terms of the goal, one-on-one, I'm having Benzema over any of our forwards. So, and even at 36, that is as well. And he's not going to play every single game and get knackered and burnt out. He can be in that position to rotate, and he's definitely a better rotating option than Eddie and Nketiah. So this for me is a no-brainer. We're not going to go and get Osimhen. We're not going to go and get Tony. We're not going to go and get Alexander Isak. So it's going to be something like that we're going to have to try and do. And there talks of the Getafe striker. There's talks of Joshua Zirkzee from Bologna. That's not going to go win us a title, Lee. It really isn't going to. And unfortunately, I think we're in this transfer window right now. We're going to have to accept that we're probably going to have this similar squad now. The squad we're looking at now is the one that's got to go and win a league. And I just don't think it's good enough, Lee.
No, and you're right, Dan. And I'll tell you why. Because when Arsenal went 1-0 down to Newcastle, we weren't coming back. When Arsenal went 1-0 down against Fulham, we weren't coming back. When I watched Man City versus Newcastle the other day, even though they were 2-1 up Newcastle, and I said, I was watching it with Julian, and we both turned around and said, I still have my money on Manchester City.
100.
Right. And I still have my money on Liverpool. And come on the Sunday, when it was Man United Tottenham, I said, when they went 1-0 down Tottenham, I said, I still don't think Tottenham will lose this game. They went 2-1 down. I said, I still won't lose this game. I can't have that same authority with Arsenal at the moment, Dan. I can't. I don't know what you're going to get. I don't. If they go 1-0 down, we don't seem like we've got something ready to come back, it seems, or whatever. And Manchester City, well, De Bruyne had come on. It was unbelievable what he done that day. I have to say that.
Yeah, it was.
It was incredible. They haven't even got Haaland in the side yet. You know what I mean? But I don't think we're good enough to compete with them teams at this moment in time.
Listen, I said it to LB. I was on Football Terrace the other day, me, Terry, and LB, and I said, look, Arsenal right now have got cover for every single position, but it's not adequate cover. And LB said, yeah, but no one has got adequate cover for every position. I said, listen, I don't care about everyone. I care about you, your team, Man City, because other than Rodri, you've got cover that's adequate for every single other position. Because and maybe the goalkeeper, but I don't mind Ortega, but he's not Edison, right? But Rodri, they've got nothing really that come close. But when John Stones is out, like he's been for most of the season, they've got and Kanji or Gvardiol or Aki, or if they've got a fullback out.
They still looked a bit dodgy.
Exactly. They've still looked a bit dodgy, but they haven't got any of their players back yet. They're going to look a bit dodgy than they normally do. But when they've got their players back, Kevin De Bruyne's been out for most of the season. They've had Foden, they've had Bernardo Silva.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So their cover there is better than ours. Of course, they're going to look dodgier without their first 11. That's just facts. But for me, when we've looked dodgier without our first 11, we ain't looked good. Whereas Man City,
that's the I agree with that.
That's the difference. That's what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying?
And I totally agree with that. And I also have to say
that's where we've got to get to. Is my last point. That's where we've got to get to. Is there?
We've got to get. They brought on a youngster, you know what I mean. He gets the goal. You know what I mean. We haven't got that at this moment in time. De Bruyne's pass is fantastic, but it was still a lot to do for that goal.
Yeah, there was. Do you know what? It was the De Bruyne pass that everyone was talking about, but that was unbelievable. Quick feet.
Quick feet, good control. 9 times out of 10, that runs away from you. I also have to say that Rodri, I thought, might have got sent off in that game. Should have probably got sent off in that. If he's not in that team, then they don't win that game. That's the difference. You know what I mean? But listen, he is in the team. They went on and won it, and you turn around and say to yourself, right, well, they're probably the team to beat at this moment in time. It'd be very interesting to see how they play in the FA Cup next week against Tottenham. But they look like that they're going to be the team to beat, and we just haven't got that same thing in us, Dan. You know what I mean? I look at those sort of things. I look at Liverpool. I think Liverpool have got Bournemouth. Is it Bournemouth they've got this week?
I'm
looking at that, and I'm dismissing it, saying that's 3 points to Liverpool. But if Arsenal are going, like Nottingham Forest in a couple of weeks, in the next away game, I'm panicking. I'm worried about it, and that's the difference at this moment in time. I think that there's 3 or 4 better teams than us at this moment in time.
Well, Mark's made a great point here. You can always see a second half fight back from City and Liverpool, but at the moment, that isn't something Arsenal can do. I honestly think that's a great point. That is
brilliant
a great
point.
Yeah.
Brilliant point. Arsenal are a goal down, they ain't coming back. I know we did against Luton. I know we've done it against Man United, but we've I look at that game against Fulham. Look, where was Manchester City would have upped the ante. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't up the ante in that game, Dan, and that's where we've come short. And we've haven't upped the ante against Villa when we went a goal down. We didn't do it against Newcastle when we was a goal down. We need to up the ante when things are not going right for us.
Yeah, facts, man. Listen, lastly, I'm going to give you 3 quick questions. What team would you put out tomorrow is my first question. Second question is, what team do you think he will put out tomorrow? And thirdly, what's your prediction?
Right, well, I'm going to go like the team that he's going to play tomorrow will be Raya in goal. There's back 4 that we know is there. I think Havertz in midfield alongside Jorginho and Rice. I think that'd be the 3. No.
You mean Rice, Havertz, and Ødegaard?
Yeah, I think that'd be the 3, and the 3 up front: Jesus, Martinelli will come back, and Saka. This would be my team. No, it'd be Ramsdale in goal. White. You're going to laugh at me when I say this. Right?
No, I bet I won't, but go on.
Right, I'm going to go White. 2 main central defenders. I'm going to play Saka at left back. Right, so that can get a little bit.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's what I said yesterday to Troops and Curtis.
Oh, I didn't know. I haven't seen that, so I don't know. You know what I mean? 3 in midfield. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go very, very adventurous there with Rice, Ødegaard, and Smith Rowe. And the 3rd one up front, I'm going to go for Trossard on the left.
Mate, that is exactly the same team that I said yesterday on my channel to Troops and Curtis. I said Saka and Martinelli on that left-hand side worked when he first burst on the scene with Emery and with Arteta when he first come on, right? And I thought to myself, Kieran Tierney got a knock, and you remember Saka was left back, Martinelli was left wing, and it looked electric. Now, I'm not saying it's going to look electric again, but I would rather have Saka there, at the moment, who ain't putting it in front of goal, than Kivior. So I'm with you. I would have Ramsdale in goal, but it is going to be Raya. I know White, Gabriel, and Saliba are going to play, but I know it's going to be Kivior, but I would play Saka. And then I would have Rice, Ødegaard, and Smith Rowe, but it's going to be Havertz. And then my front 3 is Jesus, Trossard, and Martinelli, but it will be Saka, Martinelli, and I think either Jesus already, depending on Jesus' fitness. So I'm with you there, man. I'm with you there. What's your score? Try something different. Try something different.
2-0 to the Arsenal. I don't think it's going to be a great game, though, tomorrow.
No, I don't. That's why I've gone for a 1-0 to the Arsenal, because I really don't think it's going to be an unbelievable game. We should quite easily, if we turn up, win this game. Maybe even 3-0. But I don't think we will. I think it's going to be a 1-0 to the Arsenal, real sort of hard game in front of goal again. And I think we will get one over the line, but that'll be about it. My last question before we do close is Partey and Timber and Tomiyasu all to come back. Now, Partey looks like he might come back against Forest, which is the game after this, which I think is next Tuesday week. Do you have any thoughts or any hope, I suppose is the word really, Lee, that when Partey gets back in this side, we might see some of the old Arsenal from last season?
Yes.
Or is he going to play Partey at right back?
Well, if he does, that'd be a shocker. But I do think that we've missed Partey more than what we've not missed him by in terms of results, but in terms of performances, we've missed him big time. And I think that if he comes in there, his quick transition, he makes midfield look easy, Dan. You know what I mean? If he gets fit, he makes it look easy. And I think that we have missed him in that holding role, and that will release Declan Rice a little bit more. And then even if we're playing against the top side, particularly in Europe, two solid big midfield players reminds me of the good old days. So yes, I think Thomas Partey will make a big difference to us. And I don't think it's all doom and gloom at this moment in time. If we hit the ground running, we could still have a very, very good season this season.
Let's hope so, man. Let's hope so, man.
Let's
Listen,
hope so.
people. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to leave it there, but make sure that you do us a favour before you go. If you stay tuned, you'll be heading over to my channel, Football's 12th Man, which we're going to be doing a bit of a preview. We've got a really good guest coming on, so please don't miss that. So stay tuned. It will redirect you over. Make sure that you like this one, subscribe this one. We're heading towards 40K, so make sure you hit like and subscribe. Lee, always a pleasure, mate. Great for you to be back as well.
I'll see you tomorrow.
I will see you tomorrow, mate, and hopefully Arsenal get a win. Take it easy, people. We're out of here.
Count you guys.